The UK housing market has always been a source of debate, but right now it feels like we're standing on the edge of something much larger. Reports show that only 1 in 10 renters can realistically afford to buy a home. That's not just a statistic, it's a warning sign. Today, we'll take a closer look at the forces driving this crisis. Rising house prices, stubbornly high interest rates, stagnant wages, limited supply, and controversial government policies are all colliding. The result is a housing market that feels increasingly out of reach for ordinary people. So is the UK housing market really in big trouble? Or is this just a difficult chapter in a long cycle of ups and downs? The phrase "only 1 in 10 renters can afford to buy" paints a bleak picture of where we are. Renting has always been seen as a stepping stone to homeownership. But today, for the vast majority, that step is no longer within reach. Think of it this way. For every group of 10 young professionals paying rent each month, only one might realistically secure the deposit, mortgage approval, and income stability needed to purchase a property. The other 9 remain trapped in a system where their hard-earned money disappears into rent, with little chance of building long-term wealth through home ownership. This isn't just about economics, it's about social mobility. Owning a home has long been considered a marker of stability and progress in the UK. When 9 out of 10 renters can't achieve that, it raises questions about whether the ladder has effectively been pulled up behind previous generations. Now take a second to subscribe and give this video a like to help push it to a wider audience. At the core of this crisis are property prices that have outpaced wages for decades. Back in the 1990s, the average home cost around 3 times the average salary. Today, that figure has ballooned to over 8 times. To put that into perspective, in 1995, a typical home cost around £55,000, while the average annual salary was about £18,000. Fast forward to today, and the average UK home is valued at over £280,000, while the median salary hovers just above £30,000. That gap creates a mountain too steep for most first-time buyers to climb. Even if someone managed to save £500 a month, an ambitious figure given today's cost of living, it would still take them 10 years or more to save a deposit large enough to compete in the current market. And during those years, prices may well continue to rise, meaning the finish line keeps moving further away. If rising prices weren't enough, interest rates have added another layer of difficulty. After years of historically low rates, the Bank of England has raised interest rates multiple times in response to stubborn inflation. For buyers, this means mortgages are far more expensive. The average 2-year fixed mortgage rate has more than doubled since 2021. On a £200,000 loan, that can add several £100s to monthly repayments. The psychological impact of this is just as damaging as the financial one. Buyers who were once confident about affording a property suddenly find themselves priced out, even after saving diligently. Many withdraw from the market entirely, pushing demand back into the rental sector. The cycle is brutal. Higher rates make mortgages harder to afford, pushing people into renting. That increases demand for rental properties, which in turn drives rents even higher. One of the most fundamental problems in the UK housing market is supply. You see, the number of homes being built has consistently fallen short of demand for decades. Successive governments have promised to fix this issue. They've set targets, like building 300,000 new homes per year, for example. But in practice, those targets are rarely met. Last year, fewer than 250,000 homes were built, and unfortunately, many of those were not in the affordable bracket. The shortage is especially acute in major cities. London is the most extreme example where competition for properties has reached fever pitch. But cities like Manchester, Birmingham, and Bristol face similar problems too. Even smaller towns are experiencing shortages as people relocate in search of affordability, spreading the pressure further. This lack of supply creates a bidding war environment, where sellers can command ever higher prices, and renters have little bargaining power. Government schemes were supposed to make things better, but many argue they've only made things worse. Take the Help to Buy scheme, for instance. Launched with the promise of helping first-time buyers onto the property ladder, it allowed buyers to purchase new-build homes with just a 5% deposit. On the surface, it sounded like a lifeline. In reality, critics argue it drove up demand without increasing supply. Developers raised prices, knowing buyers had government-backed support. The result? Higher profits for developers, but not necessarily greater affordability for buyers. Stamp duty holidays, another measure meant to stimulate the market, also had unintended consequences. They pushed demand even higher, inflating prices further and benefiting sellers more than buyers. Policies designed to ease the crisis often end up fueling it, because they treat the symptoms, not the root causes. The pandemic reshaped housing demand in ways few expected. Lockdowns forced people to rethink their living spaces. Suddenly, a small flat in the city with no garden felt less appealing. The desire for more space, home offices, and outdoor areas grew. This triggered a wave of migration from urban centers to suburban and rural areas. Properties in commuter towns and countryside locations soared in value almost overnight. Meanwhile, city rental markets initially dipped, but then rebounded sharply as students, young professionals, and international workers returned. The long-term effect? A market where both suburban and urban areas are under pressure, leaving buyers and renters squeezed no matter where they look. Put all these factors together: soaring prices, high interest rates, limited supply, flawed policies, and shifting demand, and you get what many analysts describe as a perfect storm. For renters, it means higher rents with little chance of saving for a deposit. For would-be buyers, it means being priced out of mortgages or trapped waiting for rates to fall. For homeowners, it creates uncertainty about whether their property will hold its value or whether a downturn could wipe out equity. Some economists warn of a potential crash, pointing to unsustainable levels of debt and affordability. Others believe strong demand and limited supply will keep prices buoyant, even if growth slows. Either way, the uncertainty is leaving many people frozen in place, unsure whether to buy, sell, or simply wait. Beyond the numbers are the lives being shaped by this crisis. Young adults are staying in rented accommodation well into their 30s and 40s, delaying milestones like marriage or starting families. Families with children are forced to rent smaller, more expensive homes than they would prefer. Retirees who hope to downsize to release equity often find there aren't enough suitable properties available. The emotional toll is significant. Home ownership has long been tied to a sense of stability, security, and achievement in the UK. When that goal is out of reach, it creates frustration, anxiety, and in some cases, despair. This isn't just an economic issue, it's a social one, reshaping the fabric of British society. So where does this leave us? Optimists argue that the market will stabilize, interest rates may eventually come down, and government initiatives could help boost supply. They see the current difficulties as painful but temporary. Pessimists, however, warn of a deeper structural problem. Without a radical shift in how homes are built, financed, and distributed, they believe millions will remain permanently locked out of ownership. The truth may lie somewhere in between. What's clear is that unless supply increases dramatically and wages begin to catch up with housing costs, the imbalance will remain. And as long as that imbalance exists, the dream of home ownership will continue to feel like a distant goal for most renters in the UK. The UK housing market isn't just facing a challenge, it's facing a crossroads. With only 1 in 10 renters able to buy, the system is tilted heavily against the majority. Rising prices, soaring mortgage rates, limited supply, and questionable government policies all point to a market under strain. The real test will be whether policymakers, developers, and financial institutions can come together to create lasting solutions. Because if they don't, the crisis will only deepen, and future generations may look back on this period as the point where homeownership became a dream for the few rather than the many. If you found this video breakdown useful, insightful, please like, subscribe, and share for a wider reach. To truly grasp the magnitude of the UK housing crisis, let's delve into some real-world examples and personal stories that paint a vivid picture of the struggles faced by many. Meet Sarah, a single mother of 2 from Manchester. Despite working 2 jobs, she finds herself spending over half her income on rent. The dream of owning a home seems distant, as every time she saves up for a deposit, house prices rise even further. Sarah's story is not unique. It echoes the experiences of thousands of renters across the UK who are caught in a cycle of rising rents and stagnant wages. Next, let's consider Tom and Emily, a young couple in their early 30s who recently moved to London for better job opportunities. Despite their combined income, they struggle to save enough for a down payment due to the exorbitant cost of living. They recount how they've had to move 3 times in the past 2 years because of landlords increasing rent or selling the property. Their story highlights the instability and uncertainty faced by many renters in metropolitan areas. Then there's Raj, a recent university graduate from Birmingham. With student loan debt and entry-level wages, Raj finds it impossible to even think about buying a home. He shares how he's resigned to renting indefinitely, feeling that the prospect of homeownership is something only achievable for those with significant financial support from family. Finally, we have the story of the Andersons, a retired couple from Manchester. They sold their family home to downsize, hoping to free up some capital for their retirement years. However, they were shocked to find that even smaller properties were out of their price range due to the influx of second home buyers and holiday rentals driving up prices in the region. Their story underscores the fact that the housing crisis affects all age groups, not just the young and the working class. These stories are just a few among countless others that illustrate the depth and breadth of the housing crisis in the UK. They serve as a stark reminder that behind the statistics and market analyses are real lives being profoundly affected by the current state of the housing market. As we reflect on these personal stories, it's clear that the need for comprehensive, inclusive, and sustainable solutions has never been more urgent. The future of homeownership in the UK depends on it. If these stories resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread awareness. Together, we can push for change. Thank you for watching.